The first presidential debate of 2024 between Donald Trump and an incredibly focused Joe Biden, they quickly lost his thoughts in his brain fog.
Making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
And unfortunately, Trump, like most Americans, don't speak Bidenese.
And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look.
And sadly, they saw this as a win.
Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the facts.
The bar is so hilariously low that not only do they speak to him like a toddler, they now have lower expectations of him than an actual toddler. And now all of America knows the man with the nuclear codes doesn't even remember the topic of a sentence he started moments ago. And the reason I made that sentence kinda sound like Dr. Seuss is because he's starting to look like him too. As even when he did put across a thought, it was easy to debunk lies about Trump.
The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach in your arm. You'll be all right.
And when he lied about himself...
By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed me, endorsed my position.
The Border Patrol immediately took to Twitter to clarify his lies. And although this debate was between the two oldest presidential candidates ever, it got awfully juvenile.
My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
And it somehow got worse, as at America's presidential debate, they started arguing about their golf game.
I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match.
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's what anyway, just take a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. And
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Let's
not act like children.
President Trump, we're going to turn.
Let's not act like children.
To a specific concern.
And even worse, who slept with an adult film star?
Having sex with a star on the night while your wife was pregnant. I mean, what are you talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat.
Give him that, sir.
I didn't have sex with a star, number one.
So pretty much the most important election in modern day history, not only for us, but the world as a whole, came down to 2 dudes name-calling, claiming that they're in better shape, and arguing who hooked up with who. As this didn't feel so much like a presidential debate, as much as it was 2 girls arguing who gets to be the captain of the high school cheerleading team. As despite defending democracy, it doesn't seem like Biden quite knows what that is.
President Biden, you have said, quote, Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes.
And when asked about the black community suffering, Biden straight up says, no, you're not.
What do you say to black voters who are disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
They acknowledge they made a lot of progress, number one. The fact of the matter is there's more small black businesses that have been started than any time in history. Number 2, the wages of black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number 3, we find providing housing for black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporate races that collude.
To which Trump pounced on.
What he's done to the black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that. Super predators was his name.
As the polls show how heavily their community has swung in favor of Donald Trump, much of them doing so after his felony conviction, so much that he now has a historic level of support for a Republican, and that's across all minorities. And in an odd way, at one point Biden even voluntarily brought up his failures as a president. Including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. And the idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in, they talk about that. But here's the deal.
There's a lot of young women to be by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters, it's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
So again, CNN cut him off to save himself. But even after the debate ended, his worst performance was yet to come, as he struggled to even be escorted down like 2 steps.
Getting fact checks from our Daniel Dale and new reporting from inside both campaigns.
And as we saw earlier, despite his horrendous showing at tonight's debate, his doctor wife still congratulated him, like a kid that can't color inside the lines, but at least he tried. Because NBC originally tried to defend his poor performance.
I do want to ask you something. Do you think it was a bit of political malpractice by his staff to announce midway into the debate that he had a cold and not let people know that early on so they could have lowered the bar so people could have been ready?
And even though CNN admitted to helping Biden,
he knows every one of these questions is coming. And yet he couldn't fill the time. Now, I just want to...
They still showed their poll of how apocalyptic this is for the Democrats. So when ABC broadcast him talking after the debate...
I'm not being facetious. But look,
so this would seem the strategy. That's the president, obviously the first lady, talking about the fact-checking in the days ahead.
How many times did the liberal media cut Biden short mid-sentence, as when he was wide-eyed and eerily focused, slowing down and incoherent, or the random self-snitching on his failed policies? None of it was helping the president, so like last election, their best hope is to treat the president like a Christmas present and hide him deep inside the basement. As even CNN's freaking out.
That was painful. I love Joe Biden. I work for Joe Biden. He didn't do well at all.
Biden's answers were, in a lot of cases, not coherent.
The same with NBC.
He delivered a performance that was at times halting, at times he seemed to lose his train of thought.
And even MSNBC.
The universal reaction was somewhere approaching panic.
Which brings me to why I believe the only reason they called for early debates, specifically in the summer before the election, is that they wanted Biden to fall flat on his face so they can strategically choose his replacement, waiting just after a potential primary election where the people would probably nominate a Bernie, Tulsi, or Kennedy. But don't worry guys, them choosing your choice in leader is the only way for Democrats to save democracy. As it really seems like we have a state-sponsored media, as MSNBC quickly suggested this very idea.
When you say conversations happening, what do you mean?
I think people are talking. I think the conversations range from whether he should be in this race tomorrow morning.
And the same with CNN.
And they're having conversations about what they should do about it. Some of those conversations include, should we go to the White House and ask the president to step aside?
And basically all the liberal media outlets are now prepping their base for a replacement for Biden. As curiously, Venezuelan Governor Gavin Newsom was coincidentally there to witness Biden's demise. I'm sorry, I meant California's governor. It's just that he made so much of California look like a third world country, it's easy to mix up those two locations. But I made this prediction earlier, and I still stand by the idea that they will suddenly say Biden is sick and needs to step down, and instead of promoting Harris, they'll replace him with a Gavin Newsom Michelle Obama ticket. Now I personally think they're an even worse outcome for America, as the only thing worse than Biden accidentally destroying the economy is voting for the guy that purposely destroyed California's, then struts around like a pigeon, proudly showing everybody how he shit all over everything. So if you appreciate my concise, lighthearted commentary on the tragic status that is today's reality, hopefully I've earned your subscription, then go check out the video on why Biden looks like an entirely different person in videos posted on the same day.